This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
It is a good night to be a sports fan with 10 total games across the NBA, 3 in the NHL, and 4 games across the 2 sports on national TV for tonight. What better offering could you potentially ask for? We're going to get you ready for those games by talking to Tom Vecchio, picking his brain on his favorite bets across the NBA and NHL tonight to get you ready for what should be a fun Wednesday. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and FanDuel Research. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a managing editor of digital media for FanDuel Research, joined here as mentioned by Tom Vecchio. Check him out on Twitter at Tom_Vecchio1. He, of course, is a writer for us over at FanDuel Research and the host of Primetime Tom. Tom, happy Wednesday to you. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, really solid NBA slate tonight. A few important injuries. I think there's some really good spots to attack. A lot high over-unders as usual with the Pacers. I'm ready to go.
But is it historic for the Pacers? Because I feel like for the Pacers at this point, it's not a noteworthy total unless it's historic, and it looks right now like it's not.
It's not. 253 is surprisingly not historic, as we saw like a 260 or whatever it was last week against the Bucks. But
kind of a bummer. I need the 260. 264 was it at one point? Yeah. Like,
and the Pacers are missing their best player with Tyrese Haliburton, and it's still this high.
Yeah, hamstring for him. Sounds like it's not as bad as it could have been, which is good because I, as a casual NBA fan, really enjoy him. So I'm glad that it won't be a super, super long-term thing. But we'll talk about that game and more to get you ready for Wednesday night here in just 1 second. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Couple NFL podcasts already up for this week. I gave my first look at the wild card betting lines at FanDuel Sportsbook and outlined where I see value based on my models. That was Monday. Yesterday, Ryan Williams joined us to break down some futures he likes for the playoffs as well. Tomorrow, Ed Feng is with us to get us ready for the full wildcard weekend slate. And then on Friday, JJ Zachariason is back with us, breaking down some player props for NFL wildcard weekend. Also Austin Cass swinging by, talk some EPL on Friday. All right here in the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also find the show on the FanDuel YouTube page and FanDuel TV Plus. When it comes to the NFL playoffs, you've got to win one game at a time. When you bet the NFL playoffs on FanDuel, one game can mean a lot of wins. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, has all your favorite bets like the money line and spread, and there's all sorts of prop bets like quarterback passing yards or who will score the first touchdown. Plus, every day there's an NFL game. FanDuel is giving all customers a no-sweat same-game parlay. That means when you combine all your bets for a chance at a bigger payday, you'll get bonus bets back if your SGP does not win. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, Virginia, and Vermont. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700. Visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia. Now, Tom, let's begin things on the NBA side of things. We have a couple of national TV games. Let's begin there. We got Pelicans Warriors on ABC, and then Nuggets Jazz on ESPN. Looking at those two games specifically, where do you see value for those right now?
Let's start off with the Pelicans Warriors. Let's go to the PRA bet. And Brandon Ingram of the Pelicans over 33.5 points, rebounds, assists combined, sitting at -113. Zion Williamson is listed as questionable for this game. He missed their most recent game. Even if he does play, this is still a good spot. The Warriors are just not themselves this year. in terms of defense, in terms of their efficiency. What I love most about Brandon Ingram is A, the minutes are super solid every single night. And, B, we're basically getting like 10, 12-ish rebounds and assists every single night, just because he's so involved in the offense. He's out there. He's always filling up the peripheral stats. So he has that solid floor. The extra field goal attempts could really be there for him if Zion Williamson is out. But again, even if Zion plays, the defense from the Warriors is not something that I'm worried about. So we can just get a 20-some-odd point performance, 25-point performance, which isn't massive, especially in today's NBA. And then he has his consistent floor of rebounds plus assists, doing what he normally does alongside McCollum. So really straightforward spot for the Pelicans. I think they can win this game even without Zion. And I'll take a player that number could jump up, especially if we do see him ruled out.
Yeah, 33.5 is the number right now for Brandon Ingram. As you mentioned, over is -113 for him. And, if you get those guys who got that steady baseline, that steady floor of those options, and then can just add in additional points if Zion's not there, I think that's a pretty attractive offer as far as getting to 33.5. And you're at least going to be close. You're going to give yourself a shot at that number. It sounds like pretty much regardless for a guy like Ingram.
Right. And that's what I always focus on. High minutes. His field goal attempts are going to be in the teens every night. They push towards the 18, 19, 20 range if Zion's going to be out. And there's no wrong you can do with that type of player that can reach 30 plus points, reach 30 plus on just points alone.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I mean, you give me 5 rebounds, 6 assists, he can do anything.
Yeah. Okay. So Ingram over 33.5 PRA is -113 for Pelicans versus Warriors right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Other game as mentioned is the Nuggets and the Jazz. That game is on ESPN after this one. With tip at 10:10 Eastern time. What are you seeing in that one, Tom?
That's going to be Jamal Murray over 2.5, made 3-pointers, -118. He has been very up and down when it comes to 3-pointers as of late. 3 of 8. 0 of 6, 1 of 6, 5 of 8, 1 of 6. Like, he's all over the place. But we've talked about 3-pointers before, as they're very volatile. But when you reach for that upper end, that's obviously great. Going up against Utah, they're allowing 14.1 made threes per game. That's the 4th worst in the NBA. Denver is 29th in the league when it comes to offensive pace, and Utah is sitting up at 9th. So you give an offense like Denver that's incredibly efficient, incredibly high scoring, you give them extra chances against a weak defense like Utah. That's when they can reach for the ceiling. So while 3-pointers are volatile, Murray's still taking 6, 7, 8 per game. And yeah, he's going to be 0 for 6, 1 of 6. He's also going to be 4 of 8 sometimes. So when he's able to have more possessions against a team that struggles against 3-pointers, I want to see him reach for, obviously, the over. I want to see him reach for that upper end, which I think is very possible. So a few up and down games in his recent game log, it is what it is. But I will take the opportunity he has in what's basically like an ideal spot to reach for that ceiling.
And I'm guessing the track record for a guy with Jamal Murray is long enough where you're not going to worry about lost confidence or the team not leaning on him. It's Jamal freaking Murray. I feel like you'll be okay.
Right. He's always going to be the 1B. He's always going to be, kind of the Robin to Joker being Batman, I guess, if we want to go with that route.
Right.
But he's never not going to play 30 plus minutes. Unless they're winning by 40 or whatever it is, he's always going to be out there. He's always going to be taking his field goal attempts. He's never not going to have the ball in his hands. So I'm not worried again. 0 of 6, 1 of 6, whatever. It happens. Trust the process. I guess we want to go with that and attack Utah every time we can.
Channel your inner Dion Waiters. That's what we need from Jamal Murray
just
for tonight. Hopefully more efficient than Dion Waiters. But, regardless, put him up, Jamal. Over 2.5 made threes for Jamal Murray is -118 for the Nuggets and the Jazz. We got 8 other games, though, across the NBA for tonight, though, Tom. Let's start with sides and totals. Anything stand out to you across those in the other 8 games?
That would be the Heat plus 4.5. It's a okay matchup going up against OKC, no pun intended, but Heat, again, I've talked about them before, and we're actually in an identical spot where Jimmy Butler was out the last time I spoke about the Heat, and Jimmy Butler's out tonight. And what I said about the Heat then is going to be the same thing tonight. They are not going to want to get out and run and get into this back and forth game without Jimmy Butler out there. They're still being very productive as a team. And I think the defense and really trying to slow things down against OKC is what we're going to see tonight. They still have the offense to mostly keep up with them with Tyler Hero, getting some shots from Jaime Jaquez, but the defense with Bam Adebayo, slowing down Chet Holmgren, kind of pushing things to the outside, I think will help them keep this game in control. Their coach, Eric Spoelstra, just got a massive contract extension, like 8 years, $100-some-odd million, whatever it was. So, like, they are doing things the right way, even if Jimmy's not there.
Yeah. And a well-earned extension, too,
right,
with how long he's been doing this and how well he's been doing so at that level. And you talked about the pace in this game. And pace, a slow-paced game correlates with an under, and an under correlates to taking the points. So +4.5, -112, that's the spot to go to if you really have conviction about that pace. You could tie those bets together, same game parlay with the under and +4.5 over at FanDuel Sportsbook. That's +250. Honestly, that's kind of intriguing because usually you'll see that inch closer to +230 because they know those are correlated bets. But you're not paying that same tax for today. So could consider that as well. If you agree with Tom on the thesis of Miami keeps the slow with no Butler and is allowed to cover as a result of that. So Heat +4.5, -112, where Tom is going there. What about player props? Any other player props you like for tonight, Tom?
Yeah, only one. Tyrese Maxey for the 76ers going up against Atlanta. High over-under. No Joel Embiid for the second straight game for the 76ers. So PRA, Maxey, over 42.5. It's -111. I believe Maxey is still the leading candidate, the odds-on favorite for most improved player. I believe he's still there. But, of course, this is as simple as it gets. There's no Embiid. He's averaging plenty of points when Embiid is off the court. It's a high over-under game. And Maxey is a player that has shown, even with Embiid on the court, even when he's not the primary usage player, Maxey can still go for 30-plus points. So when we have 245.5 over-under for this game? Yeah, 245.5. It's only 1.5 point spread. We are dealing with basically the ideal matchup for fantasy production. And Clint Capella for the Hawks is listed as questionable, their starting center. So who's a pretty solid defender, can block some shots here or there. But if Maxey is an easier route to get to the rim, and they're not going to be pounding the ball down low with Embiid because he's not there, Maxey dropping 40-plus points, I'm sure wouldn't surprise any NBA fan tonight, especially going up against the Hawks. So when a star player's out, give me that secondary option. Huge ceiling for them.
Now, the PRA for Maxey is now 41.5. Over is -120. I think he said it was -111 before. So there's been some action towards the over on Maxey, likely due to the factors we discussed. Where is the breaking point for you? Where, let's assume it stays at 41.5. Are we talking -125 is too big for you?
Yeah.
What's kind of the break point for you?
-125 is probably it. I would take 40. I'd be willing to take 41.5 with more juice rather than 42, obviously.
Sure. Right. Okay.
I think that -125 is probably it.
Okay. So check out the Maxey prop. Again, right now it's 41.5, -120 on the over. But if it gets out to -125, potentially look elsewhere. Find other routes to betting Maxey potentially, because we don't always see super correlated movement on these things. You can sometimes find other markets to take advantage of Maxey's role in a fun game with the Hawks. Okay, so Tom is liking Maxey over 41.5 PRA, -120. Heat +4.5, -112. Jamal Murray over 2.5 made threes at -118. And Brandon Ingram, the PRA bet over 33.5. Let's talk about the NHL now. Couple of games over there as well. And two of those games are national TV games for tonight. We got the Wild and the Stars on TNT, followed by Vegas and Colorado later on. Beginning with those two games, Tom, any bets stand out to you for tonight?
For Minnesota and Dallas, it'd probably just be the under. There's not much, I could say Minnesota is extremely banged up. And the problem with Minnesota is, they already came into the year with an immense amount of dead cap space. And they all have their best player, Kirill Kaprizov, out. Their starting goalie's out. So they have a large portion of their salary that's just not in the lineup because they didn't have a whole lot to begin with. So their bottom portion of the roster is extremely thin. So it would just be the under. Frankly, that game is rather uninteresting. These two teams played in Minnesota just the other night. Dallas shut them out. It could be a 3-1 game, and it's just not a very exciting game.
Fair enough. Yeah, as a Minnesotan, it makes me sad whenever they lose to Dallas because the ache is still there.
Yeah, from the North Stars. Yeah.
Yeah, rude.
So I have nothing else in that game. I wrote about Matt Duchene the other night, and if he scores tonight, I'm going to be tilted because he didn't score the other night. Meanwhile, they scored 4 goals. But if he scores tonight, I'll be tilted.
So Duchesne is minus 800 to score is what you're saying.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I respect that. What about for Vegas and Colorado? Anything stand out to you in that one?
So this is far more interesting.
Okay.
And the over is the play for a couple of reasons. One, Colorado is absolutely elite on offense, especially as of late. Number two, Vegas, they can score. But more importantly, Vegas has been really bad on defense in recent games. And Vegas is really injured right now. And I don't want to say it was due because the injuries were due for them, but last year during the playoffs when they won the Stanley Cup, they were immensely healthy and they ran super hot. Now they have both of their their top two goalies out. They have two defenders out, and they have William Karlsson, who's one of their best penalty killers, a forward, who's also out. So they are very, very hampered with injuries, and we're seeing that. So over the last 2 weeks, Vegas, they're allowing 66 total shot attempts against, which is the sixth worst in the league, which is not their calling card under head coach Bruce Cassidy. That's not how they won the Stanley Cup. They won the Stanley Cup by preventing all these shots and pushing them to the outside. They're really injured, so things change. So the over is the spot to go, starting things off, because Colorado putting up goals left and right in recent games, and Vegas is extremely, extremely injured, not to mention the fact that Colorado is pretty bad on defense right now. So we're going to be seeing plenty of scoring tonight.
With the Vegas one, you mentioned it was because their defense is banged up. With Colorado defensively, is that just kind of what it's been the full year? Or is there an explainer for why they've been bad, or are they just not
that would be I would love that answer. Alexander Georgiev, their goalie, has been pretty average this year. Their defense is basically the same as last year. It's just not putting all the pieces together where you still have a Norris caliber defender in Cale Makar, who's arguably the best defender in the league overall. They still have Devon Taves. They still have Samuel Girard. They're just not putting it all together for some reason this year. And maybe they ran super hot when they won the Stanley Cup and that was their peak. And it's regression, but it's just not the same as it was in years past.
Okay. Over 6.5 for the Vegas Colorado game is even money right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. So we like the over, which means in general, you tend to like looking at props, looking at shot props in games where you like the over. Does that lead you to any props in this game as well?
Yeah, that's going to be going right to Cale Makar for over 3.5 shots plus 126. Again, top defender, maybe in the entire league, if you're asking me. He's averaging 3 shots on goal for the season, but over the last 10 games, that's up to 3.9. He's routinely getting to 5 shots on goal. He's the defender on the first power play. Again, they are pushing things on offense. As I mentioned, Vegas over the last 2 weeks, the 6th most total shot attempts allowed per 60 minutes in 5v5 situations. So I expect Colorado, in what is a developing rivalry with Vegas, to get out and want to pound them with goals and shots. Colorado did lose to them 7-0 earlier in the season. So now Colorado, I think this is a little bit of revenge time for them because they're so injured. I do not think Vegas can keep up with Colorado in this game in multiple areas, whether it's the offense, whether it's the defense. This game is probably going to end 5-3 in favor of Colorado, is my guess.
Okay. Is there an exacta we can put on that? Makar over 3.5 shots is now plus 130 at FanDuel Sportsbook. As mentioned, that does correlate in part with the over. So if you were to check out both those together over 6.5 is even money. That is plus 308 for those two paired together. For Makar over 3.5 shots, which is plus 130 individually. Over 6.5 goals is even money. And you tie them together, plus 308 right now at FanDuel Sportsbook for that same game parlay. Other game in the NHL for tonight is the Flyers and the Canadiens. That is a 7-10 puck drop there. Anything stand out to you in that one, Tom?
There's only one, and that's with the Flyers. Travis Konechny over 3.5 shots, minus 108. The Flyers, as an organization, are going through some things right now. With a player, I should say a prospect, that apparently didn't want to play for them, and they traded him. And then the Flyers as an organization said, we don't want you here, which is a rather interesting take.
I read some quotes from, was it their owner who was just like flaming him?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
And this is a prospect that just played for Team USA in World Juniors and was a pivotal part of Team USA winning gold. He's a very highly touted prospect. And they just said, all right, you don't want to be here. We don't want you anyway, which is a rather interesting take. Regardless of that, Flyers, super average. Canadians, probably super average as well, probably below average. The problem with the Flyers is that Travis Konechny is their best player. we could call him an A-rated player. Everyone else on their roster is like a B- or C+ player. So
Sure.
if I'm going anywhere, it has to be him. He's like their main carry on offense. That number just moved. Did I just
It
see
just
that?
got a bit more favorable. Went from -110 the over to -108. So a bit more favorable. So I think that's like a payback for the movement we saw in the Maxi one. They're like, okay, we can't totally, we can't give the middle finger to Tom fully. So
Right.
we'll like give it a half middle finger and give him a bit of a break on the Konechny one.
So the Flyers are the better team, and if you want to go somewhere for this early game before the other games start, it just has to be Konechny or nowhere else, because you can't possibly trust anyone else.
Gotta love an organization in disarray. It always leads to some entertainment, at least. I saw some like JD Drew references, given the Flyers stuff. So it sounds like a great time. So Konechny over 3.5 shots, -108 in this one. Tom also likes Cale Makar over 3.5 shots, +130, and Vegas and Colorado over 6.5, even money right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. That is Tom Vecchio. Make sure you check him out on Twitter at Tom_Vecchio1. I still almost say DFS_Tom every time. I have to catch myself, but
still can't get just Tom Vecchio. Someone has it, or T Vecchio, and it's been taken.
I think that you said that they were like suspended or something too, and so it's like not even in use.
I can't even get them.
Yeah, it's brutal. Tough beat. But hey, we soldier on. Tom_Vecchio1. Sounds good to me, man. Tom, appreciate the time as always. Have a good Wednesday, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, and I am on Twitter at Jim Sonis. You can find me on Threads at Jim.Sonis, and you can follow FanDuel Research on Twitter at FanDuel Research. Back once again tomorrow, talking the wild card weekend slate of games with Dr. Ed Feng, getting his read on his favorite bets at FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll talk to all of you then. This has been covering the spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.